Hey, vinyl community. We are down to the B's, and the B's mean the Beatles. Magical Mystery Tour, 1967. Now, I had to look this up. I had a little discussion with Dylan, my son, because I had remembered that Magical Mystery Tour was released before Sgt. Pepper's, but this was not the case. However, I do believe that I bought my copy of Magical Mystery Tour before Sgt. Pepper's, both in 1967. This was a while ago. I was all of 10 years old, heavily into the Beatles. So there's a great artwork inside. This is my original copy of the Capitol US album. It's got a 24-page booklet. It's on Capitol EMI, as I mentioned. I'll read off the songs, and they're on the cover, as you can see. Magical Mystery Tour leads off, which is the title cut. It was also a television show, which never got shown in the US. It was shown in Britain and was controversial. I think it was controversial probably because of the psychedelia, but some people think it was not the best work the Beatles ever did, and that may be true. I believe I have seen it in a theater at one point. Magical Mystery Tour leads off Fool on the Hill, Lennon-McCartney Flying, which is an instrumental. Alison Steele, the DJ on WNEW in New York, used to use it as her intro because her nickname was the Nightbird. Blue Jay Way, which was about LA, George Harrison in LA, very spacey, dark. Your Mother Should Know, and I Am the Walrus. Follow out side one. Side two, Hello, Goodbye. Now, the second side were a lot of singles. Hello, Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, probably one of the best songs on the album. A classic. Penny Lane, also a great song. Actually, every song on this album is magnificent, I think. I think it holds up, arguably, as well as Sgt. Pepper's. Baby, You're a Rich Man after Penny Lane, and All You Need Is Love. I always thought Penny Lane was a reference to Perry Lane, which is where Ken Kesey lived in Palo Alto, I believe. Of course, the Magical Mystery Tour, the bus tour was inspired by the 1964 Ken Kesey bus ride. Neil Cassidy driving the bus. We've talked about this on the other one when I did the Grateful Dead Skull and Roses. Great picture of Paul in uniform there, by the way. There's a lot of terrific pictures in this. The band in their costumes from the cover, kind of a very occult-looking figure. John and George at the carnival. And there's artwork too, cartoons. Really great stuff. So, and I'll show you this, and this is a great one. There you go. The bus motif being a metaphor, of course, and in the Ken Kesey Merry Pranksters trip to the 64 World Fair from the West Coast to the East Coast. Of course, they were doing a lot of LSD, and the Beatles had done Sgt. Pepper's, and they had done, they were doing a lot of drugs. Now, at the same time, they also opened their Apple Records, got launched, and they were also doing meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So there was a lot of cross currents, and in the middle of it, Brian Epstein, their manager died from a pill overdose. So major stuff going on. Many, many great pictures in here of the band. Here's one in the white suits. Notice Paul has the black carnation, and there are a couple of references in this. Paul's also in the black seal costume in the front, and those are supposed to be reinforcements of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory. So Magical Mystery Tour as an album, I think holds together very, very well. It's got great songs. It's from a television presentation by the Beatles, much like Help, much like Hard Day's Night, although those were movies rather than television, and later the movie of Yellow Submarine. I think the album has suffered in that it was released in the same year. Imagine that, putting out Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour in the same year. I think it suffered because Pepper as a concept album, this is a great cover, but it is a little cartoony where, although the back is really very psychedelic and great. Where Pepper's was more of a concept album, and you had Day in the Life, you had, I'm Leaving Home, you had more, Fixing a Hole. Look, Sgt. Pepper's is great. I love Sgt. Pepper's. You're never going to tell me Sgt. Pepper's is not a good album. But I thought I would do something different, do Magical Mystery Tour. It's something that really woke me up to the Beatles and woke me up to their potential. I'd say more so than, this is another copy I have of the album, by the way. And so the Capitol, it's, I think, a little later pressing. Capitol, is that Capitol label on it. And you can see I have the great with, you got Burt Bacharach, who just died. Bacharach, that's my son. Says you got Rick Wakeman up here from Yes. You've got Rita Coolidge, Joan Baez, Joe Cocker, Billy Preston, of course, who played with the Beatles. I found out Billy Preston is the only person to ever have played both with the Beatles and the Stones live. So there's a good footnote for you. Peter Frampton, Procol Harum, Humble Pie, Carpenters. As the Brits would say, not a cropper in the bunch. And this was, what Capitol was sporting at that time. I also have the CD. And has the booklet in CD format. Not quite the whole, and the lyrics, not the whole booklet that's in the album. This was the 87, looks like the 87 version on Parlophone. Wow. So that's Magical Mystery Tour. B is for Beatles. We'll be going down to A. A is for, we're at the end, the Allman Brothers. Everybody knows that's one of my favorite bands, along with the Grateful Dead. And we're not going to be doing live at the Fillmore East. I'm trying to stay away from the typical albums. I could have done Derek and the Dominoes for Eric Clapton. I did Wheels of Fire. I could have done Sgt. Pepper's for the Beatles. I did Magical Mystery Tour. I could have done a plethora of Dead albums. I did Skull and Roses. I've also done Europe 72, as you know. And so for the Allman Brothers, I'll just tell you what I'm doing next week. Brothers and Sisters, the 1973. This year is the 50th anniversary. It's got Chuck Leavell. It's got the great Lamar Williams on bass, picking up for Barry Oakley. And it is a tour de force in many, many respects. And toured live great. Opening up with Wasted Words. They would go out usually with Whipping Post, stick Memory of Elizabeth Reed in the middle, Come and Go Blues. The live shows from 73, really, Southbound, Jessica, are on the album, and of course the big hit Ramblin' Man. So that's my teaser for next week. Guys, keep spinning out there. Love you, vinyl community. Please subscribe, like, and comment on my channel. I'm trying to build the channel. Love you long time, as Grateful Dean says. And signing off for John, Paul, George, and Ringo here with Magical Mystery Tour. A great work by George Martin, and I love this album. What can I say? It's it's magical. It's fantastic. I Am the Walrus is incredible. I'd say best songs: Hello, Goodbye, I Am the Walrus, Strawberry Fields, and probably Penny Lane. I really like Penny Lane. It's great McCartney at his best. Have a great night. We'll see you next week for the almonds, and we'll count down to A, and then we've got to figure out what we're doing. I'm thinking of doing jazz albums and going back through the alphabet. I don't know if my vinyl jazz collection is going to stand up to that. I might have to do Oregon for T for Ralph Towner or something like that, or use Weather Report for S for Wayne Shorter, but we'll figure it out. I have a lot of jazz albums with multiple people, and I've actually have a double album with Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, and then John Coltrane with who sang on Lush Life. Oh my God, I'm having a senior moment. Not Billy Eckstein. Hartman, there it is. Johnny Hartman, got it. The great Billy Strayhorn piece, Lush Life. So have a great night, and bet you guys didn't know I was into jazz too, huh? So we're signing off for Doodah Dave. Keep spinning out there, Vinyl Community. Love you.